Hey everyone, welcome back to the Retro Reef, and today I want to talk about the new Pokemon games coming out, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and what I'm hoping to see in the games moving forward based off of what we've seen on the trailers. So I want to start with actually going through the Pokemon that they've announced so far and that we've seen in the trailers. So if for some reason you don't want to see these, or for some reason you haven't, and you want to be surprised, here is your warning now to click away. But without further ado, I want to go through and kind of give my thoughts on kind of what they look like so far compared to previous generations. Because there are some generations I've been definitely disappointed with some of the art designs, and some of the other ones I've definitely really loved and enjoyed. So let's go through and see what they've talked about so far. So as always, they started by giving us the 3 starters. And as I scroll through here, I laugh because I absolutely love the generational starters. I definitely, throughout the generations, there are definitely some of the designs I've really enjoyed and some I've disliked a little more. I'm definitely biased where I started with Gen 1, so I know a lot of those designs were a little more basic because they started off. So I definitely lean a little bit more towards that way than some of the more quirky designs. So going through there, I look at these because for me, I think these are a little basic, but not enough. I guess they're not too basic where it's a problem. I would say as first gen, it kind of gets a little boring from that sense. So I love these designs so far. And going through the starters, a few of these I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but I think Quaxly's my favorite here. So the top 3 of the starters, obviously, as you've seen, if you haven't already. Springatito, is that how it's pronounced? That one, a lot of people love, but I would say these two, Quaxly and Fuecoco, are definitely my favorites so far. So I'm really excited to see what they evolve into. Part of me kind of wants to not see what they evolve into and get the game and evolve them and just see as I go. I think that would be a lot of fun, but I'm sure they'll end up getting spoiled for me as we go through. The legendaries, I kind of have a hot take on these. So a lot of people love the legendaries, although there's the meme that they don't use the wheels. I don't like the wheels associated with them. I like the dragon type design in the future and I guess past design as they're kind of shooting for. I really like that idea, but the wheels kind of throw it off for me. I'm not sure why, because they look more like a utility. Or just for transportation only than actually being a legendary. That said, we haven't seen the game. I know you get them early in the game. We haven't played it, so maybe there's more use to them. I'm not sure. But for me, it just takes away a little bit from my standpoint. But we'll see, because the legendaries, I don't like the idea of getting handed them off the start, but we haven't played yet, so I could very well be wrong and actually like that. So we'll see as we go along. But these next 2 designs, and this will probably be a hot take too, I don't like the human form Pokemon designs. Something about them, they creep me out a little bit. And I'm looking at a Marowak here, if that's how that's pronounced. It looks like a warrior to me, like a flame, like something you would see in, I don't know, like a cartoon, like it. I mean, this is a cartoon in a kid's game, but I don't know. Something about it being like a human form is really throwing it off for me. But I do like the flame mask on there. That's kind of interesting, and the fire coming out, but out of the back. But as I go through, like some of my favorites here, as I point out here, let's see. I love Cloth. Cloth down here, if that's how you pronounce it. Absolutely love that. And I love Graphia, I don't know how to pronounce that, but that I really like the design. I think it's a really cool concept. So we'll see with that, when that comes out. I'm not sure if any of these evolve, but I really like the design so far. I would say across the board. There's only a few I really dislike, and like I said, the legendaries I do really like. It's just the wheels kind of throw me off. But I would say these 2, the human forms, always kind of didn't sit well with me, which I know is probably an unpopular opinion, but that's just me personally. The rest of these, I just love. I can see there's a lot of personality just in some of these pictures. Lechonk, we're obviously going to talk about him. He's the star of the show here, and I absolutely love that. Wiglet, I love as well. So, I absolutely love some of these forms. I love how, I would say, simple they are, or basic, but also have their own personality or charm or character associated with each Pokemon, it looks like so far. Which I feel like we're missing in Sword and Shield. At least I was personally. So I really do love these designs so far. So I'm hoping they continue this trend moving forward, and we see, you know, more of the personality pop out in the design itself, and maybe some of the little quirks with how they walk or move, like Lechonk does at some of the trailers. So yeah, I'm loving it so far. I hope you guys are too. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, what you think and what are some of your favorite designs so far. I think Clough, I don't know why it's sitting so well with me, but I love that so far. He might be my favorite, but we'll see when the game comes out, and we'll see as they release more. So let me know in the bottom, you know, who you're going to start with and what some of your favorites are. Moving over to the trailers, I love how, I believe it was the second trailer, they actually went through and said, this is an open world RPG. And I believe they said it's the first of the Pokemon series, which I absolutely loved to hear that. It was just a nice confirmation, no speculation. It's something fans and of the Pokemon series have always wanted, so I'm really, really excited to see them attempt it, even if it's might not be as strong as what we would hope it to be. I'm just really excited to see that. They gave us the name of the region, the Paldea region, if that's how I pronounce that right, and it definitely looks open world from all the trailers, so I'm curious to see where there are loading screens. I'm sure going into buildings there might be some. Also going into certain sections, like maybe Pokemon's always found a way to put in loading sections, whether it's going into like separate hallways into a building, an important area of a building, and through cutscenes. So I'm curious to see where they will have those, because I know they will have some of those baked in, but so far it looks like for the most part it's pretty open world, which is great to see. And I know taking a look at Sword and Shield, people enjoyed the wild areas, but it wasn't all we hoped for. The DLC to me was way better with the open the wild areas, because it was basically just like an open world, like a small mini open world on its own there. So that was kind of good to see. And Legends Arceus was the same way, where you would load into it and then it was its own open world once you were there. I think the only exception were caves. I think caves had a loading zone back and forth. But so far from the trailers, it looks like it's pretty much just open world across the board. But like I said, we'll have to get our hands on it, and I'm really excited to see how far they can really take that open world concept. Something also I love that they're attempting that's new, it seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like you're not just getting handed a Pokemon and going off on your adventure. It looks like you're enrolling in a school, is what they said, and I'm curious to see if there's going to be quests. I kind of like that with Legends Arceus, how you kind of had quests on the side, and you had missions and tasks you had to do. I don't think it needs to be that extreme, because that was the whole basis of the game with Legends, but I do like the idea of maybe being able to have a different storyline than other people who play, if there's certain options, if you decide to learn or specialize potentially in another, you know, if you want to focus on grass type, or if you want to focus on, it would be really cool to never happen, but like breeding, or if you wanted to focus on like the beauty contest, like the contest type stuff, or if you just want to be the strongest trainer, it would be great. I highly doubt they're going to do that, but that would be cool to see. But even the school, if they just took baby steps with that, where you could focus on specific types and maybe learn separate moves quicker, like get TMs or something like that, or a move tutor quicker with certain type advantages than if you were to specialize and, you know, or learn about another area within the school. So I think there's good opportunity. It'd be cool if they made some baby steps from that front to kind of make everyone's experience a little more unique and tailored to them versus just the blanket storyline that everyone has to go through. So I think there is potential for that we could see. That's something that I would like to see. It would be cool to see them take their small steps to get up there. And along those lines, it looks like they took a little bit more of a step than just a small step. They had 3 grand stories they talked about, and I know the one they said was the typical story that we have, where you go through to beat the gyms and the Elite Four, if that's what they're going to call it. So that's one of the paths, but the other 2, I think they said the one was a treasure hunt. I'm not sure if they talked about the third. I'm curious to see what those are. I'm sure one of them at least is going to be more of a, I would say, like a quick to medium side story type thing that has like an end to it pretty quickly. But I'm hoping one, if not both of them, are kind of fleshed out, where there's either more replay post game once you kind of, you know, beat the Pokemon League and that stuff, or the champion, or if you can actually go and, you know, do something after. It'd be great to have more of a post story, something with one of these stories that leads into it. But I just love the idea that they just have 3 different storylines, 3 separate paths that you can take, and take all of them, and it gives me more time playing the game than I probably would a typical Pokemon game, because then at that point I'd start a Nuzlocke, I'd start shiny hunting, something like that. It seems like I'm not going to have to do that here. I'm going to be able to tackle another story or play something. So I'm excited to see what those are. I'm hoping they're a little more fleshed out than what I'm expecting, but it would be great to see that. So, and something I did want to talk about a little more. I know earlier I spoke about the legendaries. I was kind of on the fence with them just because of the wheel situation. Something similar to that, the Terrastall, is that how they call it? The phenomenon? So where the Pokemon, it's like the gimmick of the game. The gimmicks always, when I see them, I immediately get nervous, because I think, I love the Mega Evolution so much, and I thought that could have been something they could have continued with. But the Dynamaxing, I didn't like at first, but it kind of grew on me. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but I don't dislike it, so I'm kind of in the middle there. This new Terrastall phenomenon, if that's what they're calling it, I like the idea of it can actually go and potentially change types. I think for a competitive standpoint, that could give you a lot of opportunities. I don't know how that'll work in competitive battling, but I think for competitive battlers, this could be something really cool, where you could really change the whole dynamic of a battle just by going and changing a type of a Pokemon. So I think there's a lot of potential there. It looks interesting. I'm not knocking it. I just, like I said, I'm on the fence, and I think that's with any gimmick they put in the game, because to me, I don't think you need that to make it special. And I've seen it done great with Mega Evolutions, and I've seen it where it took me a little bit to warm up, like I said, like Dynamaxing. So I'm curious to see what this is going to be and where I lie. So it's more skepticism. I'm not upset or disappointed about it, but I want to learn a little more about it and see what they have there before I, you know, put a stamp on where I am on, you know, that side of the fence. So now that I gave you my, I guess, quick thoughts on the trailers and the Pokemon and kind of what quick hopes I was looking for, I kind of want to go through some of my major wishes here. I made a video in the past on this, kind of a short one of my first few videos I put out. I really hope this game can find a way to add a little bit more either difficulty or challenge to some capacity. Sword and Shield just was too easy. You can go through and train 1 or 2 Pokemon and just one-shot everything across the board. Or you can just train for maybe 15-20 minutes with a few different types, and then walk through, swap out the certain type, and you can one-shot everything. It was kind of a joke, at least for me personally. And I have seen online after research, especially I made that video, I know some people said, you know, well, it's a kid's game. And I definitely understand it's a kid's game. But I look at, as I replay a lot of these older ones, as I just finished Emerald and playing through Platinum now, there's still difficulty involved in certain areas and challenges where, you know, looking back, I never remember that being an issue at least when I was younger, and I don't remember that ever being an issue. I'm just trying to think. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So I just don't think that's an excuse on why they can't add a little more difficulty or challenge to it. Even if it's something like a post-game, like a battle tower, where maybe you can get more rewards or ribbons or something like that, more incentive for people to go and do those types of challenges. I think that would be really cool, where you can add difficulty. Maybe not one-shot everything if you just have the right type, but I think there are potential ways to go and add difficulty to the game without making it so difficult it veers, you know, kids don't want to play it because it's too hard. Also, I'm going to give a little more credit to the kids these days. I feel like through the internet, and they're way better gamers nowadays than I am, I think they're going to figure it out a lot quicker than I would have like 10 plus years ago. So, or more than that. Now I'm starting to age myself. More than that, like 15, 20 plus years ago. So I think that I just want to give kids way more credit because they game way more, and if they can do those types, they can figure out Pokemon. It's not that difficult. So moving on, something else I really want to see in terms of major wishes. I don't remember seeing much of the towns in the trailers, or the cities. I don't know if it's one major city. I'm sure there's certain pockets where there's villages or something. Pokemon has always had the towns or the cities with the villages. And one thing I loved about some of the older games is there was always culture in those cities, and a lot of people didn't recognize that because they were kind of just flying through the town, going to the next route, catching Pokemon, etc. But I remember a lot, through my first few playthroughs of a lot of different games where they talk about Pokemon attacking their village, Pokemon saving their village. They talk about how they cherish a certain Pokemon because of X, Y, and Z, and you see a lot of that in the anime. I think that we could definitely get back to a lot of that. I think we kind of lost our way where you talk to a lot of people in town now and they just give you a quick tip and you're like, yep, I know that. You don't have to tell me I can press B to skip text because I've been playing for 20 hours already. So I definitely think there's a lot of opportunity, especially with being open world, where maybe they could just add a little more, someone right outside of the village in like a little hut maybe, and they talk about how they stay outside there because the sun, or I don't know, something. I just think there's a lot of potential to do that open world, and it's something that I really miss and wish was there. Something that makes each town memorable and unique. Something that draws you to that town where you think of that game and you're like, wow, that town was awesome. Sword and Shield, I don't remember the name of it, but the only one I remember is that mushroom, the glowy one, and that had like 3 or 4 houses tops. There wasn't much to do in there. There might have been 2 Poke Center and a gym. It was like nothing. So I hope they flesh it out a little more. I know that's that's not easy, and we don't have to go into every house, but it'd just be nice to be able to have a little more culture, make every town seem a little more unique, and have a little more life to it. I think that's something that I really hope for, and something that I would really enjoy as I go through. And I think that has a lot to do with the replayability as well, going and finding little unique things. I know even in the trailer we saw the Sunflora pot, like the Sunflora in the pot, and I'm assuming it was like an actual flower, not a Sunflora, obviously, but it was really cool to see that. So I would like to see a lot of little small things like that spread throughout some of the towns and villages. Maybe have one super bear and give a story on why. But I think that adds to the replayability of going back and kind of having that memory and, having that feeling going through each town and getting to a town, whether you had trouble or whether it was a long route or you weren't able to catch a Pokemon, you get into this town and you just kind of connect with it. So that's something I really hope. And the next 2 things, and these are the last 2 things, are definitely things I don't believe are going to happen. They're just kind of on my wish list, but I don't think it's going to happen just based off the trailers, and 2, I just think it's going to be a big undertaking. So the first one here I wanted to talk about was really just bringing more life to the Pokemon. Now I know they're using the Pokemon sprites from Sword and Shield and the ones they've been working on, which is a whole separate discussion I think I want to have, because I think they should be at a point where they could probably add almost every single Pokemon at this point and have a national dex, even though I don't think they're going to do that if they're using those sprites. But I definitely think they need to add some more life. It would be cool to see, instead of the Pokemon just pop up, don't get me wrong, it's not easy to do, especially open world, because you're going to have Pokemon appear at some point. And I don't know if the Switch is even capable of doing that. Switch Pro. But anyway, so if they are able to get a more powerful system, maybe they can revisit that later. But the pop-ups, I think, are just inevitable at this point due to the power of the hardware, as well as just where Game Freak's at right now in developing these games. But I think having Pokemon, maybe there's a Tyranitar and I can't remember the other one, who they have like hate each other. It'd be cool to see them fighting in the background of somewhere, or see Pokemon that see each other and one run off because it's scared, or one, I don't know, maybe flex its muscles or something to, scare the other one off. It would just be cool to have them interact with each other, a little more life. Maybe see one crawling up a tree and you have to shake the tree to get it down. Actually see it go up before you just shake a random tree and something falls. I just think it would be cool to have a little more life to the Pokemon. The reason I don't think it's going to happen, like I said, I just don't think the hardware can handle it, one, but two, I think Game Freak's not all the way there yet. I think they're so focused on the sprites and getting as many as they can in, and then focusing on the open world itself. I think that's going to be a few more generations down the line at least before we see anything like that. But yeah, after seeing that in Pokemon Snap, it made me think, why couldn't they put some of that in here? And then I started to get more realistic of, they have a lot of Pokemon to do that with, and those Pokemon are basically on like 4 or 5 set tracks, and when you go in, it randomizes, I'm sure, one of them. So, you know, they're not going to be able to do that, which is going to create a lot of issues, glitching, stuff like that. But, you know, I'm just hoping one day we can get there. And the last item that I'm hoping we can get there too is these big cities that these games in general are putting in. They're awesome. And I know Pokemon recently has been putting a lot of cities in certain games. At least Sword and Shield they did. Maybe not a lot, I take that back. But I know they did in Sword and Shield. I think Platinum, they had it. They had a few cities. And my big thing with the cities is I need to be able to go into a certain amount of buildings. And I don't have that set number. But I just remember Sword and Shield going in like 2 buildings. And that was it. Besides the Pokemon Center in the league. Maybe 3. And I'm just like, I should not have the same amount of buildings available here as the hometown, where it's the lab, me, and the neighbor's house. I need more than that. If it's a city, I need to be able to do more things. It's hard. So for me personally, I'm not a fan of the cities because of that. Just because I'd prefer to have a couple more small towns that have more culture to it, or more NPCs that talk to you, get a little more backstory. So I'd rather more effort put into there than just making this grand old town. I feel like we see that in games across the board. So that's just kind of my hope. And I guess I want to touch on one more. I guess it's a little bonus item. So I now that I think about it, I really, really want all the Pokemon in there. I want the national dex. I'm a big shiny hunter. I have 900 Pokemon of the national dex. I'm just missing a few mythicals that you need for event-based, so I'm going to have to hope they appear in Pokemon Go or something, because I don't think they're re-releasing them. But because I have them all, I have the shiny, I shiny hunt, and I do all that, and it would be great to be able to shiny hunt in this game with an open world, with all the Pokemon in there for the ones I'm missing. It'd be great for people who don't have the whole dex to be able to go in and try to do that and port them over to Pokemon Home. It's a big ask, and I think they're most of the way there. I would, assuming if they're using the same sprites from Sword and Shield, because they added a lot in the DLC. But this comes into another topic that I'll talk in another video, where I just think the next generation, we can maybe not have as many new Pokemon and focus on getting them all in. I think would be great. And then working on sprites moving forward for new ones. That's just kind of my thought process. But, they need to be able to sell more merchandise and make as many plushies and toys and stuffed animals and whatever they need to make, Pokemon cards, to be able to sell everything that let's be realistic, I'll probably get. So, without further ado, thanks all of you for listening for this long. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, what your hopes are based off what you've seen in the trailers, and maybe some tall tasks that probably won't happen anyway. Just let me know in the comments what you think of the game so far, and what you're really hoping to see, and your big wishes. So feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.